Welcome, everyone. We'll call this February 18th, 2026 meeting of the Board of County Commissioners to order at this point. And our first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey. Next on the agenda is citizen input. We have one blue form in. If there's anyone else in the room who'd like to make comment, you can feel free to submit a blue form right now. And the first one up is Rondo.
Good morning, 2/3 of the commission. I'm Rondo. I'm a local. I think at some time I feel like it's my duty to make sure that I know and that our community knows that this commission knows certain things that are going on in this country. And so this morning is one of those moments. And I'm going to use an opportunity to share with you a prop. I don't know if you allow me to share it with the room, but there we go. We need to do this. And we need to have a commission that does this. I think it was yesterday, maybe it was the day before, Lindsey Graham, Senator Lindsey Graham stood up in Israel at a podium and said, "We are planning the world's future wars here." Does anybody in this room think that that's not going to affect this county, or that we shouldn't know how to make decisions knowing that we are headed toward war? And if I can't correct myself, on June 22, we went to war. We dropped $200 million worth of bombs on civilians in Iran for no reason. And I challenge any board of peace or any group of people that think that we are going in the right direction in this country, borrowing billions of dollars from war that causes high grocery prices. Thank you for your consideration. I'll be watching you.
Okay. Eric, are there any hands raised online for public comment? Anyone else in the room? Okay. Commissioner announcements.
I'll just have some other items at the end of the meeting today.
I'll just note that myself and I believe Commissioner Adair are going to the National Association of County Organizations Legislative Conference in DC. I'll fly out on Friday, early Friday morning. I think she left today. And that's why we won't have a Monday board meeting for anyone who's wondering. And we will be back on Wednesday. With that, we can jump into our regular agenda. Any thoughts or emotion on the consent agenda?
I'll move consent agenda.
I'll second, since it's just the two of us. I do want to make I want to note a couple things. Not that these would affect my vote, but I want to thank the Oregon Health Authority for investment in our veterans behavioral health peer support specialist position. This is a position I wish we had two of, because the caseload that our peer support specialist for veterans is carrying is tremendous, and she does an amazing job. And we would not be able to provide this support and service in our community without these funds from the Oregon Health Authority. The other item that a couple people have contacted me about is item number 1, which is approval of a lease with the City of Bend for use of rooftop space at 1164 Northwest Bond Street, the courthouse, for drone operations through its police department. So many people have asked, what is this about? What will this drone be used for? I've basically replied to them, we are in this case, basically just a landlord. We rent or lease public space within county facilities and county properties for all kinds of things, parking, um, uh, communications towers. We provide space on a lease basis to Mosaic Medical, or Mosaic Community Health, the federally qualified health center. So this is just another example of we've got the land or property and another public entity wants to lease it. If you want to know anything about what these drones will be used for, I'd encourage people to contact the City of Bend Police Department. With that,
Just, yeah, one item. So just acknowledging item number 7. So resolution declaring countywide state of emergency, requesting declaration of drought emergency within Deschutes County. So, with our low snowpack year, we have agricultural expectations of live flow, which is snow melting. And so we are doing a declaration for drought early in the season at request of our irrigation districts in partnership.
yeah, no, it's an important resolution. We could read it. I mean, we could pass it on the consent agenda and still read it if you like. I think that would be useful. There's some important information.
Yeah, that's fine. We can, yep. Read the
Okay.
whereases.
All right, so let's call for the vote and then we'll read that item. Commissioner Bone?
Yes.
Chair votes yes.
So then acknowledging, that was 11 items, a bunch of minutes also included.
Yeah. And then take a look at that resolution. So yeah, for context, for anyone who's watching, the Central Oregon Irrigation District and the Deschutes Basin Board of Control contacted the Board of Commissioners, asked us to initiate a drought declaration resolution, which will then be used to ask the governor to declare a drought emergency, which then allows the irrigation districts a variety of opportunities, access to funding, more flexible lease arrangements to move water around and things like that, that will help them deal better with the coming shortfall that we almost certainly are going to face this summer at this point. So,
You want to read the content?
yeah, there's about, and you want to read the first 5 whereases?
Sure. So this is a resolution declaring a countywide state of emergency and requesting state declaration of drought emergency within Deschutes County. Whereas ORS 401-309 and Deschutes County Emergency Operations Plan authorizes the county governing body to declare a state of emergency within the county or within a designated portion of the county. Whereas drought conditions endanger crops and livestock, endanger the health and safety of the county's population, jeopardize economic vitality within the county, and imperil the quality of the environment. And whereas Deschutes County Basin Board of Control has informed Deschutes County that continuing extreme weather conditions within the county are likely to cause widespread and severe damage to livestock, wildlife, natural resources, recreation, tourism, and related economies. And whereas the Deschutes Basin snowpack, which feeds all water sources within the county, is at 30% of average, and the latest drought monitor shows that most of Deschutes County is currently under abnormally dry conditions. One more. Whereas Wickiup Reservoir is at 166,633 acre feet as of February 13th, and it's expected to peak around April 1st at below average levels.
And whereas Crescent Lake is at 28% capacity, and whereas it is unlikely we will receive adequate precipitation in the coming months to prevent the persistence of drought conditions, and whereas the Deschutes River is experiencing extremely low natural flow levels such that all irrigation districts dependent upon water flows from the Deschutes will be severely impacted by being significantly reduced or severely curtailed due to diminished supplies. And whereas these low flows will result in widespread impact and damage to livestock, natural resources, recreation, tourism, and the economy. And whereas Deschutes County encourages water users to voluntarily share water with water users in Jefferson County, Be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Deschutes County, Oregon. Do we want to?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we can
Go ahead
finish
and
it up.
you read those.
Section 1, pursuant to 401309, Deschutes County Emergency Operations Plan and the information provided to Deschutes County by the Deschutes Basin Board of Control, state of emergency is presently declared within Deschutes County pursuant to the 4013-032 sub 2. The governing body for Deschutes County finds that the appropriate response is beyond the capability of Deschutes County. The governing body for Deschutes County respectfully submits a request contained immediately below in section 4. If you want to just finish it up.
The request, section 4. The Honorable Tina Kotek, Governor of Oregon, declare a drought emergency for all of Deschutes County under the provisions of ORS chapters 401 and 536 due to severe and continuing drought conditions beginning at this time and continuing to December 31st, 2026. And direct the Oregon Department of Water Resources and other Oregon executive branch agencies to make available for all purveyors of water within Deschutes County temporary transfers of water rights, emergency water use permits, and use of existing right option agreement and other federal and state drought assistance and programs as needed. This resolution shall take effect immediately from and after its adoption, dated this February 18th, 2026.
So then, as I say, putting it in context, we have had rain, some water in the basin, but it's that live flow melting that shows up in May and June and July as the snow melt's happening. So we're just not going to have that this year.
Yeah. The very limited amount of snowpack that we have, it's unlikely we'll catch up, and that will bite us later in the season. Okay. Thank you. So, action item number 12, second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2026-003, amending Deschutes County Code section 4.20.
Morning, Commissioners. This is a cleanup item to the Deschutes County Code that would remove the statutory limit previously set by ORS 203.148. And this was before you in a public hearing and first reading on January 28th. So we're back before you today for second reading and hopefully adoption.
With that, in support of this, I'll move for a motion for second reading of ordinance 2026-003, an amendment to Deschutes County Code 4.20 by title only.
I'll second. Any further discussion?
Just acknowledging, it's just a few lines in our code defining the fee schedule for corner recording instruments.
Yeah. And we reviewed this in depth at prior meetings. With that, calling for the vote, Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. And do we do the reading now? And then we do a motion. Okay, by title only. An ordinance amending Chapter 4.20 Public Land Corner Preservation Fund of the Deschutes County Code. Ordinance number 2026-003. Okay.
At this time, I'll move adoption of ordinance number 2026-003.
Second, further discussions? Seeing none, Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item number 13, Department Performance Measures Updates for FY 26 Q2. Thanks for joining us, Jen.
Yeah, good morning, Commissioners. Jen Patterson, Strategic Initiatives Manager. I'll just give a very quick background. We have 4 departments here, and then I'll just call them up one by one for them to give their performance measures updates. Like I said, we have 4 departments who've been selected to provide updates on progress made during fiscal year 2026, Q2. Each quarter, we select a specific goal and objective, and this quarter it's for safe communities. And maybe I should just give a quick background there. Every year, each department sets performance measures based off of the goals and objectives that the commissioners adopt for each fiscal year, and then they are updated quarterly. Each quarter, a goal and objective is selected, and then 3 to 5 departments are chosen to come and get performance measures. So that's what we're doing here today. We have, like I said, 4 departments here, and the first one is 911. So I invite Chris Perry to come up here and to give an update on the 911 performance measures.
So just, yeah, one note, this is goals and objectives of Deschutes County proper. We publish it on July 1st every year. And this is just a moment to kind of take half a step back, look at the big picture. Are we doing what we said we were going to do? And how are we even meeting those goals and objectives? So thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Chris Perry, Operations Manager for Deschutes County 911 Service District. This morning, I have 3 measures to report out to you. The first measure, as Jen said, it falls under safe communities, provide safe and secure communities through coordinated public safety and crisis management services. The district's performance measure is meet and exceed National Emergency Number Association, or NENA for short, standard for call answering times by regularly auditing operational and technical practices internally as it relates to call answering. Our target is always 90%, and I'm happy to report for Q2 this year, we're at 99.24% of the time. This is a long-standing metric for the district. We feel it relates directly to the quality of service we provide the community by answering emergency calls in a quick and efficient manner. The more specific NENA standard is to answer 911 calls in 10 seconds or less, 90% of the time in the busiest hour of the day. The busiest hour of this quarter was between 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. And as I said, we were at 99.24%, which I think is our highest for the quarter that I can remember in years. Some other phone stats to share with you, kind of somewhat related to this measure. For 2025, we answered just over 68,000 911 calls. This is up a couple thousand from 2024, which was 66,000 and change. And for non-emergency, which is about 75% of our call volume, we answered just short of 202,000 non-emergency calls, which is down a couple thousand from the previous year. And I pulled some ring answer times for non-emergency lines for 2025 throughout the day, not in the busiest hour. And 92.1% of the time we answered those in 10 seconds or less. So ring times continue to be good for the district.
Got to imagine it goes from quiet to busy, up and down all the time. Yep.
Any questions on that measure before I move on to the next?
Oh, special thank you to everybody that's ready for those calls. It's really important for our community.
Second measure falls under safe communities as well. This measure is to support and enhance call taking triage processes for mental health crisis calls in partnership with Community Crisis Response Team program. This rings true for the district again this quarter. Some examples of how we are supporting that are we continue to support the crisis team in a variety of ways, including sharing our dispatch software with the team. That's the software where we document and track crisis calls for service. So the communication about those calls aren't always given over the phone. They're in writing and there's less loss to translation. We also have established radio communications with the team on our public safety radio system. We're tracking those teams that are responding in the community, often alongside our law enforcement and fire partners. We also meet quarterly with the crisis team leadership together with the law enforcement and fire partners to address any current challenges or enhance any existing workflows. Additionally, the district continues to coordinate with 988, our state crisis line, often handing off first-party crisis callers. This in turn frees up our local crisis team to respond more often into the community in person instead of always handling crisis calls on the phone. And some stats related to crisis calls in 2025. We answered 2,740 crisis calls last year. Questions on that measure?
Yeah, Chris, I'd love to get a sense of how much personnel time we're saving our law enforcement agencies by deploying behavioral health specialists instead. Do you have any feel for, this many calls? Historically, we would have deployed law enforcement, but in this case, we were able to deploy behavioral health specialists or co-response.
Sure. I wouldn't want to speak for our partners, but 2,740 calls is a lot, and these are often super time consuming for our staff and law enforcement staff and our fire partners as well. So my impression is it's significant. There's often a co-response, but also my impression is it's a more positive outcome when we have trained crisis counselors responding to those incidents as opposed to solely law enforcement or fire. But from the 911 perspective, I think just short of 3,000 calls is super significant, just let alone in the time it takes to address those concerns.
So for those 2,740 calls, a behavioral health crisis specialist is involved in some way or another.
Yeah, our numbers are going to differ from the local crisis team because those are shared amongst 988 and our local crisis team. So numbers won't be exact, but when I pull CAD calls for service for those types of calls, that's the number I get for last year. So it's somewhere in that 2,800 to 3,000 range,
Yeah.
which I feel is significant for all of us involved.
Yeah, thank you.
The third measure is a shared measure between county admin and the district. It also falls under safe communities, and it's to coordinate with 911 and Deschutes County Sheriff's Office to increase the number of web registered Deschutes Alert subscribers. This is a longstanding measure as well for us. The target for this fiscal was 53,744. Happy to report we are currently at 71,659, and we saw a significant increase in Q1 this fiscal from the flat fire. Some updates on this measure that we're exceeding the target. On February 25th, next week, we'll be sending out our annual reminder message to those opt-in users and Deschutes alerts who have identified themselves or their household members as having access and or functional needs in the event of an emergency, specifically an evacuation. Our current count is 2,755 of those folks. So we'll be messaging them next week with the Sheriff's Office Emergency Management team, myself, and some of our industry partners. We'll stand up our small call center. And we'll make sure that those folks are reminded to check their information, and then we'll provide a number of people to answer calls in case they need help updating their account or anything in between. And then on May 6th, we'll send out our annual Deschutes Alert message to all of our opt-in accounts, which is that just short of 72,000 number. And that's something we've done the last 4 years, I believe. That's been successful. We often get 100 to 200 calls with questions from the community on whether it's setting up a new account or getting a password reset or anything in between. So that often leads to additional signups and maybe more importantly, more accuracy to the data we do have in case people have moved or their contact information has changed. It's a good reminder for the public to get that updated. So when we do need to reach out, we've got the right information.
So I should mark my calendar for May 6th to make sure I get a message.
Yep. Questions on that one?
I'll just acknowledge that, this is kind of the culture of our new technology, the system that's in place, the fact that, when there's an emergency, this is a great way to get firsthand information about where it is, how it's affecting, if you may be in an impacted zone. A lot of great partnership with public safety on this. We also have a statewide system now, partnership across all 36 counties for emergency management. So yeah, this is the evolution of the next technology, all the devices in our hands being able to give you an alert.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner.
Hey, Chris,
There we go.
Chris, can I ask you just one more question about the crisis calls? So that's a quarterly number, 2740.
That was an annual number.
Annual number. Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask, so does it change over the course of the year? Whether there's
Yeah, next time I come out to report on this measure, it comes up often, I'll be sure to bring that data.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Commissioner, if I can just share before we move on to the next, is I always like to honor the National Telecommunicators Week. That's the correct title. And that is in April, mid-April this year. And so we'll be sure to celebrate and honor those who are answering all those calls as quickly and efficiently as they are. Thank you.
All right, next up, we have Trevor Stevens from Community Justice.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Trevor Stevens. I'm the Business Manager for Community Justice. I have 2 measures to report out on for you guys today. One's from our Adult Division and then one's from the Juvenile Division. So the first one I have is that Deschutes County safely supervises adults in the community, and our target there is a negative 15%, and our Q2 update was negative 25%. And so this is an interesting performance measure. I think both of you probably would remember from Justice Reinvestment as part of LIPSIC, how they measure us for Justice Reinvestment is through prison utilization beds. And so what our goal is with this measure is to look at those prison utilization beds and see if we are below the baseline that they're measuring us against. So what they've done is they've taken a 3-year average, calculated a baseline of what our prison bed usage is, and they want to see that as a county, we're actually below that baseline. And so what they've done is just taken that average and calculated it out, and then we make sure that we have a baseline that is below that average. And so that's why we're looking for that negative, at least 15% below that baseline. Traditionally, we've always been below that. So right now at 25%, we're kind of in average of where we have been, but that's our goal. We do know this year they're kind of rechanging how they're measuring those statistics moving forward. I don't know exactly what that new measure will be, and that'll be determined in the next probably legislative session in terms of how they will come out with prison utilization. But right now, how it's being measured is the number of people we're sending to prison, is that number of beds that we're using lower than our baseline over the past 3-year average that they were using. And we're right now, as I for quarter 2, is 25% that baseline. So what our baseline is, it's 727 months. We're using about 1,427 months. And so by doing that, it's showing that we're using less prison usage than we would. And so we're safely supervising those individuals in the community, which is not part of this measure, but you can kind of look at the inverse of that is our recidivism rate's increasing, and what we're seeing is a steady recidivism rate. So those individuals are likely being supervised safely in the community because they're not recidivating at higher rates. So that's kind of how those balance those two out. And those are the measures that we kind of utilize for that measure. Any questions about that specific measure?
Well, it's a big trajectory for the whole state of Oregon, not utilizing those prison beds, being able to do that management. And then, legislative support and financial support from the state is always a big topic that we've been advocating for.
Trevor, if we are consistently getting below 15% quarter after quarter, then over time, our baseline gets lower too, right?
The baseline is static. They took a 3-year average and they kept it the same. So it's actually based off of I think it was 2015 to 2019 when they enacted the JRP funding mechanism. And so what they're doing is they're comparing us to what our prison usage would have been if we had stayed at those rates back before they put in the money to basically justice reinvestment, reinvest that money back into communities to see if they can safely supervise those individuals rather than put them in prison. So that's the baseline that they're comparing to right now. That's what I think they're probably looking at that baseline, and that's probably what's going to change with this next legislative session is how they measure that baseline moving forward.
Right, because if the baseline sort of rolled, then if we're consistently getting 15% below, then the baseline would shrink and it would make it harder to get below the baseline over time, right? Okay. But that's great. Thank you.
The second measure I have for you is from our juvenile division, and it's basically looking at our young people that are on supervision. How many of those individuals successfully complete their term of supervision? And so we measure that for the quarter period. We had 48 closures during that period, and 44 of those individuals successfully completed. Our target rate is around 75%, and so with our Q2 update, it was 80%. And just an interesting measure that I pulled while we were looking at those individuals is we use a criminogenic risk assessment to determine the risk of those individuals to recidivate. And so at the beginning of their supervision for that group of people, their average risk was about 12. At the end of supervision, their average risk was about 6. So you're seeing quite a large 6-point reduction for those individuals that are in that group that successfully completed. So it's nice to see that much of a reduction in recidivism. And those are basically those are specific factors that kind of influence whether or not it's likely that individual will recidivate and commit crimes in the future. So we're seeing a reduction in those criminogenic risk factors.
And when you said 12 to 6, is that percent?
No, it's on a point scale. How those are measured is basically the number of points indicates your risk level. So the higher the point, the higher the risk level. So they're going from a 12 risk level down to a 6. You're seeing a 6-point reduction in their risk, which is quite a large reduction in that period, especially for these individuals. Usually youth are on supervision for a 3 to 9 month period. So that's not a long length of stay compared to like an adult, which is an average of 3 to 5 years. So we're still seeing quite a bit of a reduction. And some of the things that you're kind of probably focusing on with those reductions is likely family relationships through like our FFT therapy program, SUD therapy, peer relationships, teaching kids skills of replacement, how to say no to certain behaviors and things like that. So those are where we're seeing those risk reductions and that are going through our juvenile parole and probation officers working with those individuals to help reduce that risk from that 12 down to that 6.
Right. And that scale then, if that's not a percentage, then what does that scale go up to?
I'd have to look into that. I'm not sure on that one. I think a 12 would put someone right at it's between a medium and high risk. And then, so I think they're 18 to 22 is where you get into that high risk range. So, but I can get that exact figure for it. That scale, I'm not completely sure exactly what that scale actually goes up to.
It's helpful to understand
Yeah.
that 12 is medium to high risk. Thank you.
So one thing comes to mind here. Let's use your experience and our experience at Deschutes County to set up for that long session of 27. I'm co-chairing the Public Safety and Veterans Committee at the Association of Oregon Counties. All 36 counties are in the same spot. So let's just think about that in later this year. Your expertise or the action items we could be advocating for into the 27 session. So I'll be in that spot for the committee of AOC.
Perfect. We'll definitely consider that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thanks, Trey.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have the District Attorney's Office, and here to present, we have Matthew Nelson and Sarah Troutman.
Good morning, commissioners. Thank you for having us today. My name for the record is Matthew Nelson. I'm a Deputy District Attorney with Deschutes County.
And my name for the record is Sarah Troutman. I'm also a Deputy District Attorney for Deschutes County.
So the first program that we want to talk about is the Veterans Interventions our Veterans Intervention Strategy Program. Just by a little bit of a background, I helped create and now lead this program for the District Attorney's Office. It is a District Attorney's Office program, but it's court connected in that we have a dedicated judge that hears all matters related to these cases. That is Judge Miller. He's a veteran himself. He was a Marine. In terms of why we started this program, unfortunately, veterans are overly represented in the criminal justice system. So the goal with the program was to identify those veterans and get them out of the criminal justice system by really focusing on what issues got them there in the first place, what treatment we can provide, and providing some stability in their lives. When we started this program, in terms of trying to measure success, we looked at other veterans treatment programs around the country, and the statistics showed that veterans that go through this program typically have about a 14% recidivism rate. So we wanted to set our marker at 20%. I'm very pleased to report so far our recidivism rate right now is at 3%. We've only had one individual who's gone through the program who has then been reincarcerated and was sentenced to prison. Our partners with the program, our major partner has been the Vet Center. Unfortunately, due to some federal cutbacks, they had to scale back some of the resources that they were providing to the program. Fortunately, we've had a number of meetings with the VA. They've now agreed to fill and pick up those kinds of things that the Vet Center was doing. So we're very pleased about that because for a while there, we were a little concerned about the future of our program, but now we're full speed ahead once again. Just in terms of some statistics, we launched our program in November of 2020. Our first participant, our first veteran, enrolled in February of 2021. So far, we've enrolled 36 veterans. 22 have graduated. It's been every branch of service has been represented in the program. We've had 15 of our participants were Army veterans, 10 were Marines, 4 Navy, 4 Air Force, and 3 National Guard. 22 so far have graduated. We have had to revoke 3 from the program, either for not following the program's rules or committing new offenses. 10 are currently active in the program. A person up there that's represented as deceased. It's a very tragic situation. This was an individual that just enrolled in the program, just started, and then unfortunately committed suicide right after starting the program. Unfortunately, that is a huge issue with our veterans, and a number of our participants have struggled with suicidal ideation, things of that nature. Fortunately, we've been able to provide resources, and that hasn't been too much of a problem until now. Unfortunately, this one individual unfortunately did take his own life. In terms of disability rating from our participants, the disability rating that's decided by the VA, 14 of our participants have been 80 to 100% disabled. 10 of our participants, 0 to 9%, and the rest kind of in between there. 27 of our participants were honorably discharged, 5 were general discharged, and then the Then 2 were other than harm discharged. 34 of our veterans have been male, 2 have been female. And as part of this program, they go through this program, they're placed on what we call 2 different tracks. Track 1 is for our participants that have somewhat lower needs. These are typically less serious offenses. While track 2, it's a much higher level of supervision and much more intense program. These again are for more serious offenses, but also can be less serious offenses. But if their needs are such, they need a higher level of supervision, it will be track 2. 25 of our veterans have been track 2 and 10 have been track 1. In terms of the different crimes that have gone through, 18 of the participants have been in the program for misdemeanor offenses, while 19 have been there for felony. And again, talking about recidivism, where we kind of really look at the different numbers. Again, we've had 36 total participants. Right now, we're on track to graduate here about 14 here shortly. 10 are currently, excuse me, we graduated 22. We have 10 participants currently. Of the 14 that have graduated, when they went through of the 22 that graduated, 14 that went through the program had no additional law enforcement involvement of any nature. 8 did have additional law enforcement involvement. Almost all of these were parole or probation violations, typically for using alcohol. So we were able to keep them in the program. They were sanctioned through the program, but they were able to stay in the program. We were able to continue to work with them. Again, when post-graduation, we've had only one of our participants has committed a new criminal offense. This was an individual who had some very significant needs. They have some pretty severe disabilities related to their service. They did quite well in the program. Unfortunately, once the program ended and that structure went away, they did commit a new offense. Luckily, for lack of a better word, it was a less serious offense. It was a DUI offense. We were able to re-enroll this individual back into the program, so they're actually doing it a second time. But they're actually now doing quite well. They've been sober for over a year, are working, employed, have had no law enforcement involvement. So we're very pleased with how the program's going. We've gotten great support from our community partners, including the sheriff's office, probation, the vet center and the VA, and the court. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
No. I'm just remembering back, I think the beginning of this program down at Christian Center in La Pine, a bunch of veterans asking for this program, right? So this was serious business, maybe half a dozen years ago now, or I don't know how long it's been. Pretty exciting to see that, this is an active program. Thanks to the judge and the DA for supporting this and your efforts in this, wraparound services for people looking for it.
It's been pretty amazing to watch some of the participants from where they were when they entered the program to where they are when they finish the program. Our goal is to, if they can work, get them employed. If they're housed, to get them stable housing. We've been able to really see some pretty remarkable some of these individuals.
Yeah. Anthony, you mentioned the support from the Veteran Center tapering off with resources, the VA picking up some of that. What are the other key wraparound services that are needed to help people succeed in this program?
Yeah, so the Vet Center was really doing a lot of the diagnostic work on the front end. That was really kind of a little bit outside their purview, and they were really kind of taking on a lot of extra work for this. So now the VA is going to provide those initial evaluations, which will help identify what treatment is appropriate.
And in terms of other wraparound services, are there other things that are crucial to the success of this program, or people enrolled in this program, or is that the big one?
The major one is the treatment. We do try to focus on the veteran specific issues. Whether that's a substance use issue, a mental health issue, a health related issue like a traumatic brain injury, post traumatic stress, or something. And the Vet Center unfortunately can't provide a number of those services. However, we do have other community partners that can also provide services as well. COVO has been a big partner as well. And the VA can also help provide additional services as well. Housing is a major issue. The Veterans Village has been a great partner as well in terms of getting these individuals into some stable housing, even if it's temporary. In addition to the Veterans Ranch has been a great program as well. You know, a lot of what we found with our participants is that after leaving the service, they really lose that sense of community and that sense of belonging. So a lot of what we do with the program is getting them tied back into the veterans resources that are in the community and helping build up that network and that community for them.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions?
So I am presenting about the Emerging Adult Program, or EAP, which is a restorative justice-based diversion program for young adults ages 18 to 25 who have a minimal or no criminal history. Our performance measure is to target a recidivism rate of 25% or less. And it's important to note that that is an arrest recidivism rate measured over 3 years. So that's a more aggressive way to measure recidivism than the 1-year rate that the CJC also uses and the conviction recidivism rate that the CJC also uses. It's important also that we submitted an erroneous recidivism rate of 20.5% in our measure in January. That's been updated to a correct rate of 17.6%. So we wanted to make sure that you guys got that. We can compare that, like I said, to the Criminal Justice Commissioner CJC recidivism rate available on the dashboard. They can measure this, or we can measure this against a comparable cohort of 18 to 30-year-olds, which is the same, not the same, but similar to our cohort of 18 to 25-year-olds. And the 3-year arrest recidivism rate for Deschutes County through the dashboard that's available is 43.2% for the most recent cohort. Those are measured in 6-month cohorts. But it's also important to know that number varies widely. Typically, it fluctuates between 68 and 73%. And the 6-month period prior to the most recent one, the recidivism rate was 71.9%. So typically our recidivism rate it's far below the comparable cohort and even farther below what the general comparable cohort is.
So I'm sorry, when you mentioned that 40-ish% number, that's our number, and then those 60, 70%, those are the CJC number, or?
I'm sorry. So our number is 17.6%. The Deschutes County number is 43.2% for the 2022 cohort, which is the most recent cohort for which data is available. But typically, like the 6-month period that they measured it during prior to that, it was 71.9%.
Before the EAP program was in place?
No.
Or?
So overall in Deschutes County, the numbers are 43.2% for the 2022 most recent cohort. Generally, the overall Deschutes County recidivism rate fluctuates between 60 and 73% for 18 to 30-year-olds.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So the EAP group, again, is the recidivism rate for arrest recidivism for 3 years is 17.6%. An important program update is EAP is not currently funded. Typically, we receive funding through the statewide Criminal Justice Commission. The restorative justice funding for all of the state is on pause currently, and we're hoping to receive funding in March. The DA's office and our community partners are committed to seeing through participants who enrolled in the program prior to funding going on pause. So we are still graduating individuals, but we're not re-enrolling them.
Is that is the CJC restorative justice funding federal in origin, or is it state level?
There may be some pass-through funding, I'm not sure, but it is a state level process, and that funding is administered through the state.
Thank you.
So once again, we have that opportunity through the Association of Oregon Counties, District Attorneys Association, Criminal Justice, Sheriff's Association, through this Public Safety Committee at AOC to find the things that are working, really advocate for the level of investment that's going to make a difference, and then set up for the 27 session. So great opportunity. We're in the middle of this short session right now. We'll see what happens. But setting up for next time around is probably a great place for us to be.
Thank you.
And Sarah, I'd ask the same question I asked Matthew. What are the key wraparound services that enable people to be successful in this program? Or are you getting to some of that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I do have more statistics, but to answer your question, so we work closely with Thrive Central Oregon, which is a program that provides social work services to our participants. They can provide funding to participants for transportation, for groceries, for gas. They can also connect them with treatment services, housing services. They are primarily housing-based organizations, so they can provide really specialized support for participants who need housing. And then we also work with a restorative justice community partner that facilitates the restorative justice process and makes sure that the victims are compensated for any harm that was caused, as well as the community.
Thank you.
I just switched slides here to give an overview of some other statistics relevant to the program, mostly graduation rate. So this program started in 2021. It's been going on for 4.5 years. It started out as a pilot program within the DA's office. So at that time, it was funded by the office. Since then, we sought and received the CJC funding for the previous about 3.5 years. Over that time, we have enrolled 108 young adults, including the pilot. We have an 82% graduation rate. 17 participants have been revoked over that time. 7 are currently enrolled, and 1 withdrew from the program previously. It's a 6-month program, and I think a really interesting statistics is that we have 15 community volunteers that have contributed more than 1,200 volunteer hours over the course of the program. These are very trained volunteers. They go through an initial onboarding process, and then they receive frequent, more than annual training to make sure that they're being really impactful partners in this project. Some demographics are that 70% of our participants have been male, 50% have lived in Bend, and the other 50% have lived elsewhere in Central Oregon. 60% have a GED or high school diploma, 20% of some high school, and then 30% when they enter the program are unemployed, and 40% have full-time employment. The other 30% are employed part-time or unknown or unreported. And then here's a closer look at our recidivism rate by graduation status. So of the 83 participants that have graduated the program, 10 recidivated after graduating the program. Of the 17 participants who were revoked from the program, 8 never did recidivate, 9 recidivated, and that the recidivation could have been the reason for the revocation, but the recidivation could also have occurred after they were revoked from the program. So they could have been revoked for something like noncompliance or not coming to a meeting. This program, I think, it targets a really impactful group of young people in the county. As you can see from the arrest recidivism rates over 3 years, that is 73% is a really high number when it is that high. And I think our ability to keep recidivism really low, below 20% right now, has a really big impact on community safety in Deschutes County. Any other questions?
So the report we have mentions Q2 update 20.5, and that 17.6 is the updated number. Is that
That's
what it
the
was?
correct number.
Yep, good, okay.
Reflecting back on the history of this program, I'm under the impression that we were, leading edge, a very, very innovative, novel program here in Deschutes County at the time that this was launched. At this point, are there other counties that are communities that are pursuing similar programs?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the pilot program occurred, like you said, it was innovative, and it was prior to the statewide restorative justice grant funding. So Deschutes County was really well positioned to apply for that funding, and we obviously did receive it, have continued to receive it. Since that funding, there are now I think it's somewhere around 10 to 15 programs statewide that do restorative justice programs. But ours is the only one that is housed within the DA's office currently. It's that partnership is really important to have access to young people that are, part of the criminal justice system. So we are unique in that way still.
Where are the other ones housed? Are they court-based programs or?
No, they're generally housed in community partner programs, so nonprofits that have relationships. They might have an MOU with their DA's office or law enforcement. Some of the programs seek to work with law enforcement to divert individuals at that stage. Some get referrals from their district attorney's office, and then the program is housed out of there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the update. Great to see you today.
Thank you.
If I could ask one more question.
Of course.
Sorry, Matthew. We do hear from people who say, well, why don't we have a veterans court? And I say, well, we have this other thing that, as far as I can tell, is equally effective or successful. But what would be a good thing to say to people? Like, what is the difference, and why is this just as good, if not better, in certain ways?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And kind of the genesis for this program was there was a strong desire from the community to have a veterans treatment court.
Right.
However, the practical reality was it wasn't going to happen, and the primary issue was that we didn't have enough judges. Now we got the judges. However, now we've had significant budget cuts within OJD. So even switching to take our program to a veterans treatment, official veterans treatment program under the Oregon Judicial Department's unfortunately not a reality at this stage. However, our numbers are just as good, if not better, than veterans treatment court programs. And the fact that it's not an official OJD program gives us a lot more flexibility in terms of how we run this program. Now, if you're curious, since we started our program, a number of other counties around the state have implemented similar programs as well. Washington County has a program that's almost identical to ours that is also run out of the district attorney's office. A number of other counties have done this as well. So that's kind of the main issue is, the district attorney's office has its own funding. OJD has its own funding. OJD has its own requirements. The district attorney's office, we have our own requirements, and sometimes those things don't meet. However, our goals can be similar. And so what we found with this program is we're accomplishing what we set out to do, which is provide a program for veterans that are going through the criminal justice system to get them out of the criminal justice system. And the benefit with our program is we're not bound by the same restrictions that an official OJD program would have.
Right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, now no further questions.
Great question.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, and last but certainly not least, we have the sheriff's office here. We have Sheriff Rupert, Captain Mike Sundberg, and Jeff Price, the business manager. I welcome them up.
Hey, good morning, Commissioners. Jeff Price, Business Manager, joined to my immediate left by Captain Mike Sundberg, leader of our patrol division, and of course, Sheriff Ty Rupert. I'll give a quick intro. So our objective that supports this county goal is to provide safe and secure communities through coordinated public safety and crisis management services. More specifically, our performance measures to maintain current service levels by responding to or initiating 70,000 patrol community contacts. You'll see we actually have a target that exceeds that at 80,000. So I think we've got the data to support raising that performance measure to 80,000. And that's an annual target. So we just spread that evenly across the quarters at 20,000 contacts per quarter. I'll pass it over to Captain Mike Sundberg. We did bring some data today that supports, taking that as a goal and also just show you some historic trends.
Sheriff's Captain for the Deschutes County Sheriff's Office. So looking at our numbers, there's a lot of variables when you start to apply numbers to law enforcement and services that we provide. But we are consistently over the 20,000 mark.
Captain Sundberg, could you pull a little bit closer?
Hear me better?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can pull the microphone closer so you don't have to stoop over like that.
So we are consistently over 20,000 calls handled by our office each quarter. So we ran from 21,000 calls all the way up to 24,000 calls quarterly. Those are community contacts. Those contacts are broken down into self-initiated. And for this past quarter of quarter two, we were at 7,543 self-initiated contacts. For traffic contacts, traffic stops specifically, we're at 9,506 traffic stops. Community policing contacts for the last quarter, we were at 2,771. I'm sorry, I got those numbers switched. So we had 2,700 traffic stops and we had community policing contacts of 1,192. This graph here shows that those numbers are consistent from quarter to quarter. We will have a slight difference of a couple thousand contacts across the board. But what these numbers don't show is the quality of service that our officers are providing. We've had an opportunity recently to have some town hall meetings and connect with the community. And a lot of the things that they talk about is that knowing your police officer, knowing the officer that works in the Lapine area, or knowing the deputy that works out in the Sisters area. And we're really focusing on that. We have that ability to focus on that because our numbers are consistently meeting our goals. We're consistently over 20,000 contacts in a quarter. The big thing that we're looking at is traffic safety. So we are moving in a direction where we anticipate these traffic safety and traffic stop numbers to improve or increase. And how we're doing that is by hiring qualified people. We're trying to increase our numbers on patrol, and we're working on a hybrid traffic safety team right now. Historically, the sheriff's office had a community action team that focused on street level crimes that would help with our detectives in a patrol setting. And we saw that there was a need for us to go strictly traffic safety. So a lot of our contacts in the community, they talk about the highways, they talk about the county roads, they talk about the speed, distracted driving, impaired drivers. So that's one of the things that we're looking at improving from a proactive law enforcement stance. It's hard when I look at these stats because these stats don't necessarily reflect what one call might be. So even though we may have had 20,000 calls last quarter, these calls could be the most important call for that one specific person. So when there's a variation in numbers for calls for service, what I try to look at is I look at our overall reaching professionalism that our deputies are showing, the feedback that we're getting from the community, and how safe we are. Time is a variable in law enforcement that we don't have the ability to cheat a call. We have to be safe. We have to ensure that we provide that service for somebody that could be in a mental health crisis or somebody that needs just a little bit more time. But that's where these variables and numbers come from. So we are meeting our mark. I do anticipate our proactive enforcement will improve. We currently have 37 deputies assigned to our patrol ranks. That is without counting their supervisors. We're looking at getting 44 deputies per patrol division. So those numbers will also help us with proactive enforcement. So that's a touch.
Interesting dynamic. There's advocacy right now for a 97 corridor safety improvements for ODOT. You know, let's add some capacity, some safety investments, the throughput of the multiple lanes, turnout lanes, all that. And just yesterday, somebody emailed and said, it's not the road, it's the people driving on the roads, you know, so it's just classic. But I mean, I do support a little bit more traffic presence, 97 corridor and other side roads, knowing that there is some pretty aggressive drivers out there, and it's a shame when that's what causes an accident. So thanks for what you're doing.
Sure. Yeah, I was going to ask about the connection between safety and traffic patrols as well. So I'm curious. I won't ask you to speculate about numbers or percentages or anything, but you know, as we ramp up our traffic presence, what kind of safety benefits do you think we will see? You know, less collisions, or you know, what kinds of things do you think we'll see based on that?
At our office, our deputies that are handling calls for service are also the ones that are out doing traffic enforcement. So having a dedicated group of people that can focus just on traffic safety and traffic enforcement will be a huge component because they'll be able to apply an education piece to their involvement. So oftentimes people think that a traffic citation is the best way forward to create safe roads. It's actually through education. It's by making our presence known. It's by having our vehicles out there, people knowing that we're out there doing enforcement, and then educating people. There's a lot of good people in this community that are just trying to get to their next destination. Sometimes a contact from a law enforcement officer will change that behavior far more than a punitive punishment of a citation. So the things that we would focus on would be the distracted driving. The speed is a big variable. And then there's just so many cars between Bend and Redmond and Bend and Lapine. We have to be out there. We have to have a presence. We have to work with the Oregon State Police. We have to work with other agencies so we can have kind of a collective approach. DUI is something that is very, very important to our office. It is very hard for our offices to respond to a preventable offense like DUI. When DUI creates a fatal vehicle crash and we know that we can prevent that, it's our responsibility to get in front of it. So that's going to be a large component of our traffic safety.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Well, and once again, we'll be able to advocate at the Association of Oregon Counties. But, for the state troopers, it's great to see them out there, the resources that we have there, but the presence on the road, it's amazing. There's just some of those times you're rolling up and down a curve there and there's a vehicle. Let's slow down, everybody. You see everybody hit their brakes, which is great. And then those few folks that are zigzagging through wanting to go faster than everybody else.
Anything, sir?
No, it's really interesting just to look at these numbers. And, I was going to ask about, kind of the reduction in dispatch calls, but it's, as you were saying, there's numbers and then there's each individual case of dispatch.
And I saw that in the last quarter that the calls were down. The only thing that I could correlate to is the winter. We don't have a lot of the travelers in town as much, and that would be in that quarter. We also had a larger volume of priority calls. We've had a couple of things that were on the media recently in that quarter where it takes a lot of our resources. And that's all times where we're not answering other calls. So
thank you.
Yep.
Great.
Anything, sir?
Did we switch to this slide so that you could say something about it?
Nope. This is just a showing of a graph, just breaks down the individual deals. We've already covered it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work out there. Thanks to everyone who came to talk with us about public safety performance measures today, for the work that you do to make the people of Deschutes County safer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So item number 14, draft letter of support for Terrebonne Sanitary District's community initiated project funding request.
Yes, good morning again, Commissioner Jen Patterson, Strategic Initiatives Manager. So I actually have two agenda items here for community initiative project funding requests. The first one, the support of the Terrebonne Sanitary District's request. Just as a reminder, a similar letter was sent to the state legislature, signed by the commissioners last week. Slightly different, that request was for $4 million and this request is for $2.4 million, but the same project. So they're asking for a letter of support for that as well to be sent to Senators White and Merkley.
I support this letter. It's a moment people are asking, hey, if there's money available. This is a definition of a project. So we're seeing this many times, many letters right now. But it's good to take time and really get focused on the needs of the community also.
Yeah. This wastewater treatment system or wastewater collection system that will deliver water to a treatment system is just incredibly important to the future of Terrebonne, both for, commercial activity, for the development of housing, and for the protection of groundwater resources, groundwater quality. So I'm super excited to that we have been, just in the time that I've been a commissioner, I've been able to witness this project go from, feasibility study to we are ready for construction when we assemble all of the necessary implementation funding. And I hope that the Terrapon Sanitary District can be successful with some of these CIP or other requests so that we can get it done.
So I'll move approval of the support letter for Terrebonne Sanitary District's community initiated project funding request in the amount of 2.4 million.
Second. Further discussion? Calling for the vote. Commissioner DeBonne.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Thanks so much, Jen.
Great. And just for the record, Commissioner Dare has indicated her support for this letter as well. She couldn't be here today, but via written email, she's indicated her support. So with that being said, if I could get one of you to sign one of I can get you two to sign the letter, that will be two less signatures we have to chase in.
Draft
Oh,
on the ones
I
we
have one
have.
without, I'll come up with the other one if we get there.
Okay.
I have one without the draft. The second one we just got yesterday. We got it earlier over the holiday weekend, but we got indications to bring this before the board for consideration just yesterday afternoon. So apologize for the late notice on that, but we're running up against the deadline for these requests. So Neighbor Impact is requesting a community initiative project funding. They're requesting a $2 million project to support workforce ready childcare.
Yeah, so as I say, these are all just defining needs and requests, so I'm not going to be opposed to any other requests at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, if we had more time, it would be great to look at all of these letter of support requests for community initiated projects at once and think about them competing against each other, because, we've seen a flood of requests for these letters and they're while they're all awesome projects, there are some that are just really, really urgent, and that I would love to be able to give the the additional oomph to, but since we can't look at them all together, I think it's appropriate for us to support any of them that we think are good projects, and Neighbor Impact has demonstrated what a central and key player they are in the world of early learning and childcare. They have helped so many people start childcare businesses. They have helped with big institutional projects like the one up at OSU Cascades, and they really are central to our community's efforts to expand childcare and access to early learning opportunities. And so it's great to see them, kind of putting another foot forward in terms of being able to support that basically whole ecosystem that produces the childcare that our community needs. So I'm supportive of this letter as well.
I'll move approval of letter of support for Neighbor Impact for FY27 community initiated project funding for childcare.
Second.
Work ready childcare project.
Second. Further discussion? Okay. Calling for the vote, Commissioner DeBonne.
Yes.
And chair votes yes.
And can I
So I
come up
have-
and get your signatures real quick on those letters?
Yeah, the one we have is black and white. So
And I do have one more to reference, just Sheriff's Office put a grant request letter for body worn cameras. So this is down that same path, federal community initiated projects. Sheriff mentioned it to me and I didn't know if we'd have, so now's an opportunity. I wasn't sure if this was going to come around, but would the board want to support a letter for the Sheriff's Office down this same path? So he's asking for a letter of support like this. And I have provided him one, dated previous to this meeting. So there could be support at the board level, and the multiple commissioner path.
So this is a community initiated project
Yep.
request to which legislators?
I think it's the same committee, Senators Wyden and Merkley.
So the deadline for these requests are next Wednesday, the 25th. Is there a letter that we is there a draft letter or where are we starting with that?
As I say, I
What can I do to
provided him with
support?
one signature on it, knowing that, yeah, he was asking, hey, I want to get this in the package. So I said, well, I can do one real quick. Not being organized enough to think, hey, we have an opportunity for at least the two of us to talk about.
Okay, so you submitted a letter on behalf.
Yeah.
Okay,
one-
great.
one
Got it.
commissioner.
And some organizations, just for your information, some organizations have just been notified that Congresswoman Bynum has just opened this up as well. So
Yeah, so as I say, this.
I think that's the same deadline, but I haven't heard one way or the other.
Would assume it's the same
Yeah,
deadline.
I would too.
So the proposal could be to replace a letter from one commissioner to have the board, but
I would love to have a copy of that to read more thoroughly, but I think I would be supportive as well.
so you would be supportive.
Yeah.
So as I say, I mean, it's the window's closing real fast. That's why either we do it now or not. So,
You could take your draft letter and
yeah.
add further signature lines to that.
So, I mean, along these same lines, I'll move approval of the letter of support for grant funding for Deschutes County Sheriff's Office body worn cameras.
Well, second there. And further discussion? Calling for the vote. Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
Chair votes yes.
So
Okay.
yeah, I'll get you.
Get-
Yep, I'll get that to you.
And Jen, can I just ask about that Central Oregon Central Oregon Veterans Outreach? So was that a CIP? That was not a CIP.
It was a completely
for-
secret grant. Let me pull it up to see so I don't speak.
Was it a grant or was it just an appropriations request?
I believe it was a grant and the deadline was today. So it was very quick turnaround on that one. And just due to the holiday weekend, that letter just went out from Commissioner
Yeah.
Dare. But let me just pull it up really quick so I can tell you exactly who it went to. It was an SSVF grant, which stands for,
Supportive Services for Veterans of.
yes, yeah, thank you. So yeah, it was a grant.
Yeah.
Yeah, so completely separate from the CIP.
Okay, I
So,
missed.
yeah,
All right,
that's
I
okay.
missed that.
The deadlines were just super quick on some of these.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess, with all these things, with the sheriff's office, with Kovo, could we, as you're routing letters to them, could you just make sure that they know that you're a key point of contact, in the future? Because, if it comes to you, if it comes to you first instead of one of the commissioners first, and then has to come from the commissioner to you, then the rest of us will get it faster.
Yeah, it gets a little tricky because unless it's like soliciting all organizations and entities who could possibly
Right.
apply for the grants. So I think, we're in the second year or maybe even third year of second year of me overseeing this particular portion. I think the word is getting out more and I'm getting some direct or at least CC'd on the request directly to you, but we'll continue to try to do that outreach. So
Yeah. Just as we get people letters, you can kind of gently make it clear to them, like, hey, I'm the key point of contact here, so just contact me first.
I can do that when I disperse the letters out. I'll let them know in the future to
Thank you.
include me. Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So that was item 14, item 15. Are there any other items?
So a little follow-up from last night in Redmond, a good discussion about the big picture on the side of town there. So this is just for us to be able to compare notes a little bit. As you saw, I asked about, we need to go to the legislature, and really that was the concept, is not to have to piecemeal it, but whatever that looks like in the future, at least we talked about it. That was valuable to get around the table there.
Yeah. No, and I had one additional thought on that. I really think it's unrealistic if you have hundreds of acres still unbuilt out in your UGB and I don't know exactly how many acres they had. Nobody had the answer to that yesterday. But if there's a lot of land still available in the west side of Redmond, I think it's unrealistic to think that you're going to get a 1,200 acre UGB legislated expansion. But I do, and when I brought up the idea of a swap, the changing lands, Ed said, oh, it's too complicated with the ownership. People who own lands in Western Redmond aren't going to want to take theirs out. But one thought that I had was if East Redmond really is the best place for the city to grow next, in the near term, would it be possible for us to exchange some lands? If we own 1,200 acres, somebody owns 200 acres in West Redmond that's the next up for development, we could essentially continue to serve this holding function for the future of Redmond's growth. We swap 200 acres of our 1,200 for 200 acres in West Redmond, or figure out some way of making it roughly equal. If East Redmond is where Redmond is going to grow, I also want us to get some of the benefit of selling county lands, but to make that UGB expansion work, I do see that as a possible way for us to facilitate the swap of UGB acres in order to allow that UGB change to move forward. So just a out of the box idea on that.
Well, my reality, what I kind of got deduced from what was being discussed is this is just a future state. And this, and Nick was very involved with this previous career even. This is the visionary lands to be able to go from 40,000 something to 60,000 something, maybe way off into the future. So I don't know that it's critical now for that development. It's just kind of defining what that could or should look like, so then other parts can be built in at the edge of town that don't conflict with it. That's all I was seeing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hear that, I don't think there was any disagreement about, this east side area is the future, but is it the near-term future or the long-term future or the midterm? And it seemed like a lot of the counselors were thinking that they wanted to leapfrog this past the west side. I mean, and if that's the case, then, if they come to that conclusion, then I was just trying to figure out what we could do to facilitate that.
Yeah, so I wasn't taking that step yet, but I mean, it was just good that we all talked about it last night. Any thoughts about, because remember my realization that, there's resource land here and then, the mayor said, well, it's not farm for a profit, but it's, the zoning is resource. That was interesting.
Two pieces. One, I just said that you asked the question about the percent or the number of acres of vacant land in the urban growth boundary. I just sent the email to the community development director to follow up on that and CC the city manager, so he's aware of that. You're right. The urban reserve on the east side of Redmond is zoned exclusive farm use or that surface mining for the Negus transfer station property. But it is primarily so. Whether it's quality or not, that the zoning is exclusive farm use, and the comprehensive plan designation is agriculture, but it is in the city's adopted urban reserve.
Which is interesting, yeah, because that's the value of an urban reserve effort that was, 20-something years ago now, maybe almost. Because that was exactly what Sisters and Bend have been bumping up on is resource land, non-resource land, and all that.
Yeah, I mean, if the city of Bend is able to get through its urban growth boundary expansion and get to an urban reserve project, I'm quite certain there'll be EFU zoned lands within that. So I mean, I guess it's not odd that there's EFU in their urban area reserve. That's what I'm saying.
And then, you saw the next following topic was that Core 3 public-private partnership discussion. As I say, I'm basically just trying to set the table for a business-like conversation instead of shutting it down up front. So, we haven't talked about it much here. I'm an advocate for trying to say, is there an opportunity here or not? So that's all. I'm just letting you know that it'll come to us through multiple channels probably. The title hasn't been transferred for any of this, the land use, the urban growth, Core 3's UGB amendment that previously was here. So lots of moving parts there, but.
Well, when I said let's hear from the potential partner what their proposal is. It does seem like that's a good place to start, in my opinion. And so if there has been a proposal provided, or even like a kind of broad outlines of a proposal provided, I'd like to see that.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it's interesting because when we sat around the table last night, everybody's mind goes a little bit different direction. Well, we can't do it because of this. We can't do it because of that. And I saw some negative conclusions. I'm like, well, but do we want to do this? Do we want to try to do this? So that's right where we're at, very early.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we were hearing from people was concern about preserving, the public's priority use of the land in Core 3. I don't, there was maybe one or two people who said, actually, I think there was only one counselor who said flat out, like, I am not in support of this, but pretty much everyone else said, I have some concerns about this, and they really revolved around, Core 3 is being set up to serve certain public purposes. You bring a private partner in there, do the public purposes suddenly become subservient to that? And that's, that's one of the things that gets figured out in a proposal and in negotiations. So I'm open to hearing more. We certainly is going to take a lot of money to build Core 3. But the Redmond City councilors who expressed concern about making sure that the public uses of Core 3 facility remain, first and foremost, and not subservient to private interests. That's my concern as well.
Discussion will follow. So then another item, I was able to go to a special road district number 8 board meeting last night at 7:30. I was able to get from Redmond to Lapine by about 7:35. So, but the north bypass and bend sure helps when you need to get from point A to point B, because I didn't hit the light at Powers either, so that worked out real well. 500 properties in this special road district. When I look at this map, I don't think of that as 500 properties, but it is. It's like, oh, wow, that's interesting when you think of it like that. I would have thought it would maybe like 300 when I look at that. But they've got about $100,000 a year in their tax revenue. They're maintaining their roads, with grading in the spring and the fall, buying rock when they can for intersection improvements, plowing in the winter, all the standard complaints about if there's a big snowstorm, there's a berm in front of my driveway and all that. So it was really just one of the classic little road district board meetings, and I was able to help people understand it's truly just that, just rock, grade, plow. That's it. There's nothing much else. They have been improving their roads there by able to buy rock. Because one of the things that happens with these dirt roads, you grade them and they end up with a little bit of a crown, but then they get narrower. So you truly have to stop, widen it back out to put the edges out instead of just a round crown that ends up happening when you grade it a few times. So it's a learning experience for everybody. There's also a discussion of mailboxes out there. And I think, did the road department or community development, somebody's talking about mailboxes, I think. Just like, maybe it was CDD future work plan to figure out. I don't know. I was trying to remember it last night and I wasn't sure.
I'm not remembering, and it will likely depend on whether it's in the road right of way or if it's.
Well, and it's just one of the topics that came up.
Or common open space property, but generally it's.
Oh, it's post
right on the edge of right of way.
Yeah.
I can look into that to find out which department was.
But I was just wondering, I think I saw that in somebody's future work plan.
Well, I think it was community development.
Yeah.
I think community development mentioned that, and I'm not recalling.
That was my task, was to go, what were we talking about? Because I didn't remember very well last night, so. But that was it.
Very good. Well, if there's nothing else, I think we can adjourn. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.